This is CBN NewsWatch.
It is Thursday, the 1st of July, 2021. I'm Ephraim Graham. Thank you so much for joining us. Ahead today, illegal immigration has become a top issue for Republicans, with former President Donald Trump highlighting the concerns, visiting the southern border Wednesday, and members of Congress also traveling to the border to see the crisis firsthand. The economy growing quickly coming out of the COVID lockdowns, but one big problem for businesses, finding new workers. Former Secretary of State Mike Pompeo talks to CBN News about the impact COVID had on religious freedom in America. And while much of the U.S. has been baking in a historic heat wave, one South American country has been getting snow. All those stories and more are ahead in today's edition of CBN NewsWatch. We want to begin this half hour with immigration, which has become a major political issue for Republicans as the southern border crisis has escalated. Former President Donald Trump highlighted the issue Wednesday with a visit to the southern border along with Texas Governor Greg Abbott.
We had the border so closed, the best ever, and now it's coming through at levels that they've never seen before, just pouring in. Because, you know, we're not only talking about people, millions of people are coming in. But we're talking about drugs. We're talking about human trafficking, and by the way, mostly women. I hate to say, not children, not men, mostly women. You know, I say, all Biden had to do is go to the beach. If he would have just done nothing, we would have now the strongest border we've ever had. It was even getting better and better and better because it was all kicking in.
Texas Governor Greg Abbott, who invited the former president to the border, also blamed President Biden for the border crisis because he stopped Trump's border policies. 1 million migrants are expected to surge into the U.S. this year alone. CBN Capitol Hill correspondent Abigail Robertson brings us this look at the reaction of lawmakers who recently saw the situation at the border firsthand.
While the Trump administration built about 450 miles of new barriers along the southern border, like this one here in South Texas, construction stopped when President Biden took office, leaving most of Trump's border wall unfinished.
The money to finish wall construction is already there. It's just that President Biden decided he didn't want to do it anymore.
Florida Congressman Byron Donalds recently joined a delegation at the southern border in Texas.
Border Patrol is essentially a medical triage unit right now.
On the tour, they found out that only one agent is needed where the wall is complete, compared to unfinished stretches that require 5 or 6. Yet even where the structure looks finished, construction stopped with no electricity installed, leaving the camera and light systems powerless.
When you come down here and you see the infrastructure for yourself, you go into the detention facilities run by Border Patrol, and you see what's happening on the ground. It just makes sense to finish wall construction and bring back some of the enforcement measures that we had in the previous administration.
Lawmakers also spoke with agents and local residents, toured detention facilities, and visited areas where people are coming across. On this side of the river here is Mexico, and over here is the United States. And agents are finding migrants crossing by rafts all hours of the day and night.
We're actually on pace to add about 1 million different illegal aliens to the already 10 million that are here in the United States this year alone.
Brandon Judd, who's been a Border Patrol agent for 24 years, says more people are coming now than ever before.
The ones that are released, they're never going back. Because again, once they get released into the United States, if they don't show up to their court appearance, the Biden administration will not let ICE go after them if they don't have a criminal record. The vast majority don't have criminal records here in the United States.
And describes the current situation as complete and total chaos.
You know, what's disappointing to us is that the administration won't even define this problem. And if you're not going to define the problem, you're not going to try to find solutions.
Texas Congressman Michael Cloud led the trip and pointed out the major differences between the Trump and Biden border policies.
What we had under the Trump administration was an administration who looked at a crisis, put in policies to mitigate the crisis. And we've seen the absolute reversal of that. We've seen an administration who's inherited a solution and has removed those policies to create a crisis.
He fears Biden plans to reverse even more immigration policies like Title 42, which allows agents to send migrants back to Mexico.
Basically, it would take one of the few tools we have in order to return people to Mexico who are not supposed to be in the country away, and would de facto create catch and release.
Cloud argues agents desperately need more resources to fight the cartels.
Right now, it's difficult when you have an administration who wants the chaos to happen.
Turn now to the devastating heat wave that's hit the Northwest as well as parts of the East Coast. The death toll from the heat in Canada, Oregon, and Washington may be in the hundreds, most of those in Canada. Oregon health officials said Wednesday that more than 60 deaths may have been due to the heat. In Multnomah County, the highest number of 911 calls for medical emergencies ever, more than they would normally see an entire summer. Spokane, Washington hit 109 degrees Tuesday, and people there have been trying to keep cool this week.
Most of the time we try and stay inside, or we've been in the water. I don't like to take the kids out unless we're in water. It's just too hot, and it's honestly not safe. Our power actually got shut off in our whole neighborhood last week, and so we were without air conditioning, and it was miserable. It was bad.
Seattle and other cities shattered all-time heat records during the last several days. The economy has been growing strong as states have reopened following COVID lockdowns, but businesses are struggling to fill positions. It's an issue that is hitting the job market across the board. And as Charlene Aaron shows us, many are coming up with creative ways to attract new employees.
Davis Professional Services here in Chesapeake, Virginia specializes in cleaning commercial properties and definitely feels the impact. The lack of workers has forced the company's owner to leave the office and step in to help take up the slack.
The labor force is just stagnant. It's not moving. It's not doing anything.
For more than 25 years, Jerry Flug has run his janitorial company. Then the pandemic hit, costing him about 25% of the business. With the company rebounding, he needs more workers.
It's been a big struggle for us to fill those positions. And we right now currently have about 35 positions that are open.
Across the country, as businesses emerge from the pandemic shutdown, they're facing a labor shortage, especially in the service industry. According to the Economic Policy Institute, child care issues and ongoing fears about the pandemic are somewhat to blame. Many also point the finger at enhanced unemployment benefits. Employers say the federal $300 weekly benefits are giving people a reason to decline work.
It's a big deal, and it's hard to compete with free money right now.
That's why more than 20 states are ending the federal unemployment benefit.
Just last week, this woman came to the door and was calculating her hours of saying, actually, I'm going to make more money off of unemployment than I would making here. It just happens, and we've just gotten used to it.
Human Resources Manager Carrie Terry says with so many job openings, workers feel they could weigh their options.
So I think that it has brought a certain level of audacity for people to kind of feel like they can wheel and deal. There's more of a bargaining level there that they're expecting because they know that they have so many options. And we have to do what we can to be attractive to these job seekers.
That includes rehiring former employees.
We reach back out to them, we call them, and ask, would you by any chance, are you interested in being a Davis team member again? And we actually have people who've said, you know what, I haven't considered that. I think that might be a good idea.
Flug has even rolled up his sleeves to help.
It's all hands on deck. We do have an approach of, I'm not going to ask anybody to do anything I'm not willing to do myself.
Meanwhile, Flug is hopeful that business will soon return to normal. Charlene Aaron, CBN News.
In a sign of the times, another advance for online digital currency, as the National Republican Campaign Committee has become the first major congressional campaign group to accept cryptocurrency for payment. CoinDesk reports Minnesota Congressman Tom Emmer says the move was made at the request of donors who want to make their payments with cryptocurrencies. The move is another indicator of the growing usage of digital currencies like Bitcoin, which could help eventually move the world to a global cashless society. Coming up, former Secretary of State Mike Pompeo talks with CBN News about the impact COVID has had on religious freedom right here in America, the difficulty of getting people in the government to look into the possibility the coronavirus came from a lab in China, and more. All that when we come back. Stay with us.
Before you marry is a bad idea.
Don't tell me there's no such thing as gun violence.
That just depends on your definition of when life begins.
Watch Dan and Dale tackle trending topics that test your faith on the next Faith Wire. Monday night at 8:30 on the CBN News Channel. The Global Lane takes you around the world, providing facts over fiction.
What might rising trade and geopolitical tensions mean for you on the home front?
With over 45 years of experience, award-winning journalist Gary Lane brings you the truth from a global angle.
What about the issue of immigration?
World news analysis you won't see anywhere else.
And it's all right here on the Global Lane.
Thursday night at 8:30 on the CBN News Channel.
Watch breaking news, in-depth exclusive stories and programs from health to entertainment you won't find anywhere else. The CBN News Channel, a perspective you can trust. Enjoy credible news reporting from around the world. Discover inspiring programs and stories of hope, all in one place from a Christian perspective. The CBN News Channel, a perspective you can trust. To watch the CBN News Channel, download the app or visit cbnnewschannel.com.
Former Secretary of State Mike Pompeo is talking to CBN News about the effects of COVID-19 and how it led to assaults on religious freedom right here in America, and how there was resistance in the State Department and other parts of the government to look into the theory the virus leak came from a Chinese lab. CBN's David Brody spoke with Pompeo about those issues and a possible run for president.
When the coronavirus first took off, then Secretary of State Mike Pompeo immediately suspected that the virus may have come from a Wuhan lab instead of a wet market. The medical community, Democrats, and the media wrote him off as a kook.
They didn't accept what we said, the data set that we laid out before them, because they played politics. They had a theory of the case that was based on this was Mike Pompeo saying this. And he works in the Trump administration, and therefore there's some other angle here. They're trying to, it's a shiny object theory or whatever it is.
Now that it appears his suspicions have merit, and that controversial gain-of-function research supported by the U.S. may have also played a part, Pompeo tells us how bureaucrats kept putting up roadblocks as he tried to get to the truth.
Inside the State Department, there was lots of debate about the efforts we had underway, but I was just vicious about demanding that the team do everything they can to sort fact from fiction. If it leads to a conclusion that's not the one that we think it is, great. We just want to get to the conclusion. Yeah. And so, but there was enormous resistance. We ran over the resistance as best we could, both from inside the State Department and from NIH and other places, people who didn't want to talk about the fact that there had been grants to the WIV.
While that was then, the former secretary hasn't stopped trying to right wrongs. That includes tackling issues like the assault on religious freedom here at home.
We saw it during the virus, churches that couldn't gather, pastors that couldn't bring their flock to a place while you had all kinds of other craziness going on, protests in the streets that were acceptable. That is a real black mark on religious freedom in America. It's deeply inconsistent with our constitutional right for the free exercise of religion, but more importantly, it strikes at the very moral foundation of our country.
Pompeo says a spiritual battle is striking the moral foundation as well. There's a lot of folks that believe we are in a state right now in America of spiritual warfare, if you will.
There's no doubt there are folks here in the United States that are trying to place evil in front of us. This isn't new for those of us who are Christian, those of us who are believers in the Bible. We know that evil always exists. We also know that we're all sinners, but we know this. We have to be strong in our faith.
That strong faith would likely play a role in a potential future decision, whether he might run for president. Look, you've met with some donors, you've been in some states, I don't know, New Hampshire and a couple others. Hello, I didn't fall off the turnip truck yesterday, so I cover this stuff for a living. How serious are you about potentially running in 2024?
So it's a fair question. I must say, Susan and I pray every day about how to execute the mission we've been given by the Lord. We're going to stay in this fight. I've been at this for decades. Today, 2022 is the marker. Whoever the president is in 2024 needs to have a Senate and a House so that they can actually make the changes that America needs.
So it's safe to say that you're surveying the terrain and you'll see what happens after 2022. Is that fake news or not fake news?
It is fair to say we're going to stay in the fight. We'll see what role the Lord brings to us.
David Brody, CBN News.
Still ahead, do we still need to wear masks? It's a question many people are asking since most states no longer require them, but most airlines have kept those requirements. So should the masks stay or should they go? We're going to hear what one expert has to say about the situation right after this.
Region's first ROTC graduate student.
I'm Ephraim Graham, and this is Studio 5. Cruise with me as I discover the good things happening in the world of music, sports, television, and movies.
The fact that Ryan Coogler was going to be directing the film, I knew that something special was going to happen.
We'll chat with artists at the forefront of entertainment and explore the connection between popular culture and faith.
I asked my pastor, I said, well, does that mean I'm supposed to be a preacher? He says, well, no, you already have a pulpit.
Wednesday night at 8:30 on the CBN News Channel.
How'd you like to get a redo on your health, on your body, on your arteries, so you could have the energy you had 20 years ago? The great news is you can. I'm Dr. Mike Roizen, chair of the Wellness Institute at the Cleveland Clinic. I've written 4 New York Times bestsellers. But even better than having to read all that, you can listen to this DVD and watch it. Protect your heart? Yes, you can. Here's how.
Go to CBN.com or call 1-800-700-7000 for your free copy of Protect Your Heart. Let the medical experts show you their new discoveries on how to avoid heart disease and even reverse it. Easy steps to uncover the hidden dangers in your medicine cabinet, reduce stress, and get a complete do-over for your health. Call 1-800-700-7000. That's 1-800-700-7000. Or go to CBN.com to claim your free copy of Protect Your Heart.
Mask mandates, while most of the United States is lifting those requirements for people who are vaccinated, most airlines are keeping those in place. On several occasions, that has led to a rage and the arrest of some passengers. So is it time to drop the mandates and go back to our previous lives without masks? On this week's episode of The Global Lane, Men's Health Network Science Advisor Dr. Sal Giorgiani says it depends on the situation.
You still have to be cautious and you have to be aware of your circumstances, just like everything else in life. You know, what works in one area doesn't necessarily work in another. So I think, and some people really, they've been wearing masks, Gary, for the better part of a year or more. And it takes a little bit of time to get back into the rhythm and feel comfortable. So I think there are some situations, if you're older, if you have immunologic problems, if you've not been vaccinated, one of the most important things you can do is get vaccinated. And if it makes you feel better, wear that mask in crowded indoor situations. Outdoors, that's not necessarily been an appropriate thing to do for like a very long time. And I think that we're slowly getting to a point where we will get back to not having to wear masks in any venues.
Dr. Sal, I've noticed some people are scorned for wearing them. Others are ridiculed for not wearing them. And in the Dr. Seuss book, you remember the Sneetches. Star-bellied Sneetches are cool, the best of society. Plain-bellied Sneetches are shunned. So how likely is it that we're creating a society of Dr. Seuss Sneetches?
Yeah, I think that is one of the terrible liabilities we see here, not only with mask wearing, Gary, but also with having been vaccinated. One of the things that we enjoy in the United States is our personal freedoms. That has to be protected. Certainly with those freedoms comes responsibility. So, but I think that a lot of what we're seeing now speaks to just how fragile our freedoms are, whether you're talking about a medical context or whether you're talking about a social political context. We are teetering, I think, on an area that's of some questionable ethical morality.
Well, speaking of that, it seems that the airline industry and some others are pushing this idea of requiring digital passports to show that you've been vaccinated. So how concerned should we be about that and privacy rights?
Well, I think that they are trying to strike a balance between how to keep their personnel, their employees safe, keep the traveling public safe, and also move in and out of different countries. Don't forget, it's not just about traveling within the United States, about traveling internationally as well. I do think that we need to have some way of acknowledging someone who has been vaccinated or not vaccinated for lots of reasons. So I don't have any particular aversion to vaccination proof. You can do these things in a way that protects your personal privacy, and that technologically is certainly feasible. Now, the next question, Gary, is if you've identified someone who has not been vaccinated, what do you do? Do you deny them boarding? Do you deny them boarding for a business trip, to attend a funeral, to go on vacation? What do? Do you have just planes for unvaccinated and vaccinated? We all have to sort this out.
Millions of Americans are still not vaccinated. Many are skeptical about the vaccine effectiveness. Others don't feel they need it. I know someone who was vaccinated and still contracted COVID-19. So how concerned should we be about variants like the Delta variant?
We should be very concerned. The vaccine makes you immune to the effects of the virus. You still can carry the virus. It's just not going to do anything to you. We also believe that there is good data to strongly suggest that if you're vaccinated, it's much harder for you to transmit the virus to another individual, but you can. And also we have to keep in mind that as wonderful as these vaccines are, especially the Pfizer, Moderna, J&J vaccines, they protect you to the point of 90 to 95, not 100%. And then with the Delta variant that we're seeing now, and maybe others to come, that drops down to maybe 88%. So it's very hard to know, Gary, if you're in that 90, 88, 90, 95%, or if you're in that other minority who still will get it and still get sick. It's all a matter of degrees. It's not an on or off switch.
Okay, Dr. Salvatore Giorgiani, thank you for sharing your time and scientific expertise with us today.
My pleasure. Thank you for having us on.
For insight and development on other issues in the world today, be sure to tune in to The Global Lane. You can catch it at 8:30 Eastern Standard Time this evening on the CBN News Channel, or simply download the CBN News Channel app. Coming up, heat has been the big weather story here in the U.S. this week, but snow has shown up in an entirely different country, in South America. We'll show you where when we come back. Stay with us.
Hey, if you're tired and exhausted all day, you can't think clearly, and you really just need a cup or even a pot of coffee to get through your day, then join me, Dr. Josh Axe, for this new series where I'm going to teach you how to transform your diet and use essential oils and supplements to get a better night's sleep.
Wake up to your best life. Call 1-800-700-7000 to get your free DVD or booklet of Protect Your Sleep today.
It's about the competition.
I kind of put that pressure on myself, and I think people had expectations.
It's about overcoming.
We use this phrase all the time, keep chopping, keep practicing hard.
It's about going the distance.
I think as a father, it's my job, to lead. Just be the best husband and father I can be.
Watch Going the Distance with Sean Brown Saturday night at 7:30 on the CBN News Channel.
Orphans Promise is committed to loving and serving at-risk children, to helping keep families together, and to creating opportunities for strong and sustainable communities around the world. We're working in over 60 countries around the world, and with your help, we can do even more. There's an old African proverb I love that says, if you want to run fast, run alone. But if you want to run far, run together. At Orphans Promise, we want to run far so we can touch the lives of as many orphaned and vulnerable children as possible. But we don't want to go alone. We're out to change the world, one child, one family, one community at a time. Will you join us?
Download the CBN News app, 24/7 news from a Christian perspective at home or on the road. One place for all of your news. Breaking news alerts. Set daily prayer goals and pray for news stories. Read the most important news and watch CBN News Channel live. CBN News, because truth matters. Go to cbnnewsapp.com to get the app today.
While much of the United States is experiencing a historic heat wave, it is an entirely different situation in Brazil. Unusually cold weather has brought snow to the South American country, better known for its sunshine and beach life. People in the southern state of Santa Catarina have had 3 days of snow, blanketing a number of cities to the delight of people who live there. The cold weather will continue through the week, but forecasters say no more snow flurries. Time now for your Thursday Thankful. I hope you'll join me in this prayer of gratitude. God, thank you for answering my prayers in the way that is best for me. It isn't always my way, but it is always the best way. Seeing and understanding this truth helps me to love your will and your timing more than my own. With that prayer, I encourage you to make this a thankful Thursday, filled with gratitude all day long. That is going to do it for this edition of CBN News Watch. You can always find more of our programs on the CBN News Channel. You can find them there at any time. You can also find them online at cbnnews.com. We'd love to know what you think about the stories you've seen here today. You can email us at that address right there at the bottom of your screen, newswatch@cbn.com. You can also reach out and touch us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Once again, I encourage you to make today a thankful Thursday, and we'll see you right back here tomorrow.